run the football, make plays on defense. And I think they have a shot here. I know the Chiefs, obviously, Greg, are the favorite, and they deserve to be. The Desert thinks very highly of them in this game, but I don't see a blowout here. I just don't.
I don't necessarily, although the COVID issues with the Raiders is something to watch out for. A lot of the players out of the facility this week that hope to be back for Sunday night, I hope they are, because their defense has played better. You mentioned it, like Nick Kwiatkowski, Jeff Heath, like they're stepping up. They're making some plays. But I don't know if it's going to be enough against a Chiefs team who I think deserve a lot of credit for how they've responded to that game. And when I think about the Chiefs, I think about how the guys who got paid this offseason are all playing like superstars. It's a little underrated. You get a monster contract right after winning the Super Bowl. And is there any letdown? No. Patrick Mahomes is right in line to be in the MVP conversation. Chris Jones, to me, is the best defensive interior pass rusher in the NFL other than Aaron Donald. He is playing that well. I think it's been his best season. And then you look at Travis Kelce, like everyone just kind of takes Travis Kelce for granted. Oh yeah, of course he's good. He is on pace for the best yardage, the most receptions in his entire career. And so when you look at the Chiefs' best players, if they show up, to me, they still have too much firepower for the Raiders.
No, I'm with you. And I sense disdain from the Chiefs toward the Raiders. And I believe in certain types of revenge games. I don't believe in like Duke Johnson going to Cleveland and having a revenge game, but I do here because on Monday, Andy Reid bristled when he was asked about the Raiders after that October 11th victory. They took their little bus and circled it around Arrowhead Stadium twice, annoying the Chiefs. I guess the bus driver maybe threw some jabs at the Raiders before the game or something. Reed was annoyed by it to the point where John Gruden had to say, this is ridiculous. That's not a narrative. I would be a little concerned, though, because in that first meeting, Carr threw for like 350 yards. The whole thing was the aggressive passing game. He's had 160 or less in three straight games. So to me, it's a concern. This Raiders offense, they are running the ball better, but can they achieve that balance in what probably will be a game that asks them to air it out?
I think they can, and I think a lot of that is game plan driven, why Carr's numbers have been down. I don't think it's because he's playing worse the last few weeks. I just think they're in a good spot, and they're playing with a lot of confidence, and I think that's why this is the perfect time to get the Chiefs having that win. Maybe they shouldn't have taken the bus around the stadium. But you know what? That was a big win for an organization that had been down in the dumps for several years. And it was the signature win of Gruden's tenure there to this point. So I'm not even going to get on him too much for that. I'm back to the Chiefs offense. One interesting thing to me, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, their rookie running back. It's interesting how that backfield is coming together because his snaps have gone down since Le'Veon Bell arrived, but it's not really about Le'Veon Bell at this point. There were two blowouts, and then their last game before the bye, Darrell Williams was the guy that was getting love and getting play, and CEH was down to 40% of the snaps. So maybe this is becoming a situation, and your fantasy team's probably not going to like this if you bet on Clyde Edwards-Helaire big, that this is a committee backfield, but it's not necessarily one where Lev Bell has been the one that's changed things.
Well, and you save them a little bit for the end of the year. Look, Andy Reid doesn't care about all those people that got excited honking. It's like, I took CEH number 1 overall. It's like, okay, let's calm down and let's have the season play out. They're a pass-first team. They change it up depending on the opponent. They can do whatever they want, and it's one of the reasons I feel so good. Like you seem like you give the Raiders much of a chance. I don't, and that's why I'm going to see if I can lock it up. Am I allowed to lock up the Chiefs on the road in prime time?
Well,
I want it.
Well, I don't know.
Do you have a mirror in your home?
Give me that graphic.
Did you look in the mirror?
I do.
And did you see your reflection?
They lost the game last time.
Greg, I'm only asking you a question. Last time. See, the fact that you're defensive makes me a little worried. And Mark, I think you probably agree with me. When you look in the mirror, I think
everyone here.
Do you see a reflection?
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone here has had the game or two where, they're on the edge. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to make Jeff Heath look like Troy Polamalu this week, as what happened last week, Greg. If you can live with it, you can live with it. But
I can, because if you can't take the Chiefs in this game, you can never take them, essentially. Well, they're playing the team that beat them earlier this year in Arrowhead. All this Raiders talk, I'm
Stan, help us out here.
Listen, the lock has never been about what other people think. It's what you think about yourself. And if you're comfortable with it, you lock up the defending world champion Chiefs. And that's good. All right. Let's move on. I actually don't have a huge issue with it for all the reasons I laid out, Greg. I like the Raiders. I like this team. Let's get into the other primetime game. Oh, but before that, let's take a break. Welcome back. All right, let's move on to the other primetime game, Monday Night Football, and this one is fun. The Los Angeles Rams at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One great defense against really a balanced Tampa Bay team, but an offense that is coming off a game where they totaled 544 yards and 46 points against the Panthers and didn't even hit their top gear. They left points on the field, if you'd believe that. So obviously Tampa, when they're right, Mark Sessler, can do bad things to anyone, including an Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey team. However, we cannot look past the struggles that Tampa has had in primetime. And I don't care what Patrick Claybon says. They have struggled when the lights have been on, and it's on Bruce Arians' radar, I can tell you that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Arians is having them practice at night to simulate that. And I mean, it kind of makes sense. You said they have had a roster of players that haven't had the same nighttime game exposure that, say, Tom Brady has, who's played in prime time roughly 560 times. I like this matchup. I've had some issues with the Rams. I want to see them win a game that creates buy-in for those who look at the Rams and say, you're just a wild card type team that's going to get, knocked off at some point. This would do it for me. And I think they've got you mentioned the Jalen Ramsey thing. I mean, what he did against DK Metcalf last week was phenomenal. That's why you give up those draft picks for him. And so I think that's an X factor here, because this is a different type of offense. What do? Do you take away Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown? You've got Gronk. I mean, I don't think we're going to get Jalen Ramsey on Scotty Miller too often, but someone's going to have to deal with the best cover man in football right now. They also have Darius Williams, who blew up last week. I like this Rams defense and the idea that this game could be close in the fourth quarter. And that Rams running game, it truly was a running back by committee last week, Greg. And so I think if they can keep that happening as well against the tough Bucs defense, they got a chance.
I think you put Ramsey on Mike Evans because Ramsey's so good against those physical receivers. But that still leaves Godwin and Antonio Brown, which you get the feeling that Tom Brady trusts those two guys more. I mean, he loves throwing Antonio Brown, who, by the way, has looked like a guy who's coming along and is going to help this team. All of them made big-time plays for him. So taking Evans out of the game, like, that's great. Darius Williams has been great all year, though. This guy's the closer. I mean, it's a great matchup because Brady, he missed all those deep throws last week people killed him for. All those plays were because he was moved off his spot, because the Panthers actually got him to move outside the pocket. He's not hitting anyone when that happens. And it's kind of the same for the Rams quarterback, Jared Goff, too. I mean, I don't mean to just throw it back to Mark here, Dan. I don't want to just leave you out of the mix. But we got to talk about Mark's Jared Goff obsession. Like, he's just, like, so mean to Jared Goff. Like, this should be Christmas. This should be Christmas for Mark Sessler because it's Jared Goff against, like, the best blitzing team in the league, which spells trouble.
It's kind of an ugly side of Mark that comes out when Jared Goff comes
It's
out,
not. I mean, Jared Goff lives on, like, a fantastic, like, 30-acre orchard in Malibu. I don't think he cares whether or not I'm, in love with what he's doing in this offense. I just think compared to some quarterbacks picked first overall into year 4 or whatever, that he's just attached to Sean McVay, and I want to see him operate a little differently. I thought that what happened against the Dolphins would be really concerning to Rams fans. And can the Bucs go and mimic that? Because if you make Jared Goff uncomfortable, the result is not good. It's been negative, and it's limited what the Rams can do. I think they're a more balanced team than they have been in years past.
I think you are a little bit hard on LA. It's been that way for a couple of years, and you say.
That's fair. I mean, you know what? Listen, that was a step, and you can't just say the Rams are a team that's just beaten up on the NFC East. It's not the case. So I hear you. I'm with you. I'm not anti-Rams. I just want to see them become one of those teams in the NFC that fascinates me and builds trust. And I think a number of Rams fans that are level-headed would agree.
They're 6-3 though. You didn't think they were a playoff team. Not many people did coming into the season. So at this point,
maybe my read on this team, maybe my read on the Rams is just like we should be, taking someone else's read because I could be completely wrong. That wouldn't be the first.
We should mention Andrew Whitworth is not in this game, and that is a massive problem for the Rams offensive line, especially in this matchup. I mean, if they could win in Tampa, I would be surprised, and it would say quite a bit.
And one more point on Antonio Brown, and the guy. He's a knucklehead, obviously. And there was that report of him destroying property at his apartment. I can't track it with this guy anymore. It's not enough to get him kicked off the team, apparently. But don't read into his fairly pedestrian numbers the first 2 weeks and say Antonio Brown is not a difference maker on this offense. I think he had 6 catches on 7 targets last week. And the 7th target, he was open for a 50-yard touchdown that Brady missed. So Antonio Brown looks damn good. And keep an eye on him in prime time. All right. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. All right, now that we got the primetime games out of the way, let's move to our draft. And as luck would have it, for old Rosie, as he's called by some, I prefer Greggy. You got the first pick, buddy.
My mom prefers Greggy too. It's just you and her that call me that. I am so excited I have the first pick because this is my favorite game of the entire season. It's Falcons Saints. You knew where I was going. I've been talking about this Falcons Saints rivalry as the best rivalry in football on our podcast since we started having a podcast, and it's always because it's a little crazy. Like,
wild.
Throw out the records when the Falcons and Saints play. It really is throw out the records because even last year, on Thanksgiving, when the Falcons were at their lowest and the Saints were at their highest, the Falcons found a way to win. And now you sprinkle in a little Jameis Winston into these two franchises that despise each other and these two fan bases, and it's going to get weird. I don't know how much to put into Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill's tag team in the second half of last week. I'm trying not to put too much into it because it was ugly. Jameis did not look ready, and it made me think like, I think people are excited, including me, to see Jameis Winston in a Sean Payton offense, but I don't know if he's going to be bombs away Jameis that he was in Tampa. He's going to have to get used to this dink and dunk, controlled style of play, and that's not really what Jameis does, and you're throwing Taysom Hill in there all the time. It makes me a little worried about what this matchup is going to be like.
Yeah, I know everyone sort of says, like, I trust Sean Payton, to use the week to create a scheme that allows Jameis to be successful. I mean, he did that with Teddy Bridgewater last year, and really helped Teddy Bridgewater get a starting job. So I think there is trust in Sean Payton more than Coach X. I mean, I'd put him in the top 2 or 3 in the league to create something this week. I think the Taysom Hill thing, he's actually had some positive plays, but the perception on him is basically baked into a pie right now. People are annoyed with him on Twitter. I get that. He can be used successfully.
Baked into a pie?
But it can't. Well, I mean, just the perception. It's like, oh, we're annoyed with everyone. No matter what he does, everyone's got to have their little giggles and laughs.
People love pie, though. Who doesn't love pie?
Well, maybe it's a pie with
people
an
don't like
ingredient inside
Taysom
of it
Hill
that's
for
not
some
good
reason.
for people.
I know exactly what Mark's saying. There's a bit of an edge to the Taysom Hill analysis.
Well, he does have
Twitter.
4 fumbles, and it's 4 fumbles and 40
not
touches.
that.
It's more than anyone. It's just
It's
true.
not. Greg, if Taysom Hill were actually baked into a pie, you wouldn't eat that, by the way. So, I'm not sure where I'm going with that argument. I want to see how they deal with these two quarterbacks. But, I mean, I get the idea that anyone can win, and the quarterback thing makes it a true X factor. But the Saints defense right now is warming up, and I trust them. I know that Raheem Morris said the Dirty Birds are back, and that may be true, but they're not entirely back. I mean, they're a hot and cold operation if I've seen one.
Well, they've been pretty hot with Raheem Morris, so that's why it's a very interesting matchup. And, like they say, I feel like, speaking of Patrick Claremont, something he would hate was throwing out all the record books. I feel like he said, the record should still be there. But anyway, here's why I love this game. I don't know if it's a first overall pick love game, but the range of outcomes for Jameis Winston and the Saints is so high. It could get to the point where he plays so well that Drew Brees gets healthy and the head coach goes, I think we're going to stay with this guy because he brings something to our offense that we didn't have anymore with Drew Brees. It could be so bad that he ruins their season because Drew Brees, it sounds like we're hearing reports he's going to miss multiple weeks, and it might just be enough where, costs him a division title and someone comes up and gets them and then puts them on the road in the playoffs and away we go. Or it just kind of keeps them steady like what Teddy Bridgewater did last year. But the fact that James is such a different quarterback, it doesn't seem like it's going to go that way. It's probably going to be one or the other. And I will say this, when I do the power rankings, I kept them at number 3, the Saints, even though you could certainly make the case that with Jameis Winston there, you drop him, because I do think, I just have a bit of a feeling that he's going to play well, that he's in a good spot. Ooh. He's got good playmakers around him. He's got a head coach that's going to keep him from making some of the mistakes that have killed him in his career. And I feel so good about the Jameis Winston era in New Orleans. I don't care how hot Atlanta is or Winston's 30-30 season. I'm locking up the Saints to keep their winning streak going with Seamus Jameis.
I like this lock.
I love it.
I think this is gutsy because you're right. The variance on Winston, it's not the Bucs offense. I think he's going to be put into a safer situation.
Great word. Keep
so
going.
I'm with you, Dan. Nice lock. That's a gutsy lock.
All right, thanks.
I want him to be like Brock Osweiler when he took over in the last season of Peyton Manning, except he never gives it back, like you said. And it's Jameis Winston starting in the Super Bowl. Love
it's
it.
in play.
It's
all in play.
He needs Michael Thomas to step up, though. That is one thing. We have not seen Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara both great at the same time. Michael Thomas has 18 targets this year for 95 yards. Man, he could use Michael Thomas to be Michael Thomas, but you get a feeling he's not 100% off that high ankle sprain.
Or maybe not 100% checked in, maybe. It just seems there's something still, even though now he's back in the game.
Something's up.
I still don't know if I buy in on what's going on with Michael Thomas. He doesn't seem like the same guy. All right, let's move on. The number 2 overall pick goes to Mark Sessler.
All right, this is my number 2 overall pick. I hope it's not.
I know.
Ryan
I said it was. I
Leaf-esque.
said it was the number 2 overall pick.
Well, I'm reminding myself. That's how this works. I'm going to go Browns Eagles. I just kind of want to see if Mother Nature can come wreak
the
total.
draft is setting up well for the old Zeuser.
This is like a Tim Couch type Browns pick, or maybe who is it? Courtney, what's his name?
Courtney Brown.
Courtney Brown.
Courtney
also
Thorne
known
Smith.
as the Quiet Storm. Yes, Thorne Smith, who came in and registered 12 tackles, I believe, in the 2003 season. All right, stop trying to get me off course here. The Browns and Eagles, look at Mother Nature has wreaked total havoc on Cleveland, and it sounds like it won't be great again on Sunday. It's played in Cleveland's advantage, not against the Raiders because they didn't have Nick Chubb, but last week against Houston, Houston lined up 8 men in the box like 36 times, and it didn't really matter. The Browns ran for like 150 yards in the fourth quarter. Wyatt Teller, a human being who was made in a lab apparently, he's become like a supercharged guard for them, highest rated PFF guy in the world right now, and it looks like it. He is a dominator. So with Chubb and Hunt and the whole crew back, and Austin Hooper blocking as well, I like this idea of them going and beating an Eagles team that frankly has been not just bad, but as boring an offense as I've watched in years. And they just seem tangled, lost in themselves. I don't see a lot of trust around Carson Wentz and the scheme. Doug Peterson, you guys, we know that this week on radio, he's venting on people. That's when you think, things are starting to get a little thorny in Philly.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Browns in this game. I keep picking them, but I also have this feeling, and I bet you do too, Mark, just because you're a Browns fan, that like they're going to get picked off in one of these games they're supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It feels like it's coming. I don't know if it's going to be this week. I'm picking them to win because of what you said. Like they dialed Wentz back, I think, a week ago. I think they made a concerted effort to cut down on some of the plays that maybe he turns the ball over, have him outside of the pocket left, have him running left. So it's like, okay, you had no turnovers, but you were still terrible. I mean, and can we get a normal weather Browns game? You mentioned it might be bad again, but I want to see what this team looks like when there's not 35-mile-an-hour winds.
Right.
Yeah. Our friend Nick Shook, who helps us out on the podcast on Sunday nights and does awesome work at NFL.com. He's a Cleveland native, and it broke him last week. He tweeted out that he wants to put a roof on top of that stadium in Cleveland, which the whole thing with the Browns is it's supposed to be tough in the elements, but it's frustrating because you don't get a good gauge on these teams that are playing, including Baker Mayfield, who's kind of been just out of the picture because there's only so much you can do passing when it's 35-mile-per-hour winds. I think with the Eagles, I have officially lost hope that Carson Wentz is going to get fixed this year because I think, and you heard in that radio interview, and really great job by whatever station that was. Can we just say again?
WIP.
Teeing up teeing up Doug Peterson in the worst way imaginable. But you sense the frustration is because they don't know how to fix him. They don't know how to fix their quarterback, and they need their quarterback. So I'm very apprehensive. That said, I'm totally with you. I don't want to say it, Mark, but I got a feeling the Eagles are going to pick off the Browns in this game. If I had to pick this game, if I was doing the old Greggy pick every game scenario that he does on his other program, I would be picking the Eagles to take a W.
NFL game debut, Friday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. I mean, if you're going to plug it, give it the name.
The endless plugs, the endless plugs. I write an article that appears on Tuesdays. About 12 people read it. Find that on the internet if you can, please. But I'm with you. I'm a little concerned about this Eagles. The matchup is concerning because they need it desperately to break out. There's like 25 more hours of Eagles football this season. I mean, based on where we are, that's 25 too many, but I would be concerned about them, getting a couple more wins here. Cleveland better have their heads on straight.
Pick the game, Mark.
Cleveland 21, Eagles 18, field goal, overtime, and driving wins. Cody Parkey.
All right, very good. All right, we'll be right back after this. All right, time now for Road to Victory, presented by the United States Marine Corps. Oh, the old Zeus of the draft has really fallen to him in a beautiful way. It's like back in August when Alvin Kamara dropped to me at 9 in my league of record in fantasy, and I was like, this is going to be a good season. Well, guess what? I'm picking 3rd overall, and I get Tennessee at Baltimore? Let's go. Let's fly. I can't wait to watch this game. The Ravens, we got to figure out what's going on with this team. Are they a Super Bowl contender still, or are they a team that just doesn't know how to win, can't get a big win? And this is a big stage for them coming off a very disappointing primetime game. Yes, we understand it's on the road. We understand the elements were terrible. There was a monsoon for the final possession of the game when they had a chance to steal it. It just wasn't in the cards. But it just hasn't been right. And I know you look at a lot of the numbers and you look at the analytics, and everybody's telling you that the Ravens are still a great team, and 6-3 is hardly a bad record, but something just seems a little bit off in the pie, Mark. When you put all the ingredients in there, all the ingredients are great, high quality. Then you put it in the oven, you take it out after an hour or whatever. I don't know how long pies cook. And it's like, this doesn't taste right. Something is just a little bit off. So what will they do against the Titans? They are getting the Titans, however, Greg, I feel at a good time. Tennessee is a team that has some confidence issues of its own after a disappointing primetime game last Thursday against the Colts, a special teams apocalypse for them. And I don't know if their defense, and especially their secondary, even with Desmond King, is up for this challenge.
Yeah, you look at their defense, and I think it's still the worst group in this game. Like, if you talk about the Ravens offense, defense, the Titans offense is obviously still good. The Titans defense is the problem, but this is a week you're going to need to see Lamar throw the ball, because I think that's how you beat Tennessee. And one of the problems you mentioned with the Ravens, Dan, is like the identity that they had a year ago was running up the middle on offense and setting the edge on defense, just a team you could not get to the outside. And those are both collapsing. And now you play Tennessee and Derrick Henry. It's like, who is tougher to stop when he gets to the edge than Derrick Henry? Like, that is a problem. And I'd be a little worried. It's the playoff rematch. It's like a lot of bad memories. They need to exercise their demons, or else this season starts feeling pretty dark.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think both teams have been impacted by offensive line injuries. And we know Ronnie Stanley has been out for the Ravens. Matt Skura, their center, had to tweet out an apology for a string of absurd drafts of snaps last week. So DJ Fluker was benched in that Patriots game. And I think for the Titans, like Taylor Lewan being out with the ACL, and Roger Saffold was hurt last week, that has impacted Ryan Tannehill to some degree. He's had to kind of speed up and get rid of throws a little quicker. I mean, he is as tough as they come in the pocket, but they've been a little disjointed themselves. So I think it's two teams, two organizations with their backs against a wall. It's like a mythical giant versus a depressing bird. I don't know who to pick. I'm in a state of confusion.
I have two quick takes off the last time we saw the Titans. Number one, A.J. Brown catches that pass down the sideline when they're up 7-0. They're up 2 touchdowns, and who knows how that game plays out. So just a failure to execute what seemed like a fairly basic long touchdown pass really hurt them. And then my other point is a broader one about Mike Vrabel, the head coach, and I understand Patriot loyalty runs deep here. But the next big field goal or extra point that Stephen Gostkowski misses is going to be on the head coach as much as it's on the kicker. Because loyalty has to have its limits. I cannot believe that we're still in this situation with this setup where Gostkowski, it almost doesn't matter what he does. He's going to be their kicker. So if it happens again, put it on Vrabel. Gostkowski's doing the best he can, but he's a limited kicker at this point in the game.
I mean, what a pick for you, getting this as the 3rd overall pick. The most mismatched kicker battle you'll have all season with the GOAT. Justin Tucker. And you got Tony Romo on the call in this game. You don't normally see value like that this late.
We got Jim Nantz, because I saw some reports Jimmy Nantz is looking for a raise. Is he going to be there? Is he going to be in the booth?
Game time decision.
All right. That was Road to Victory presented by the United States Marine Corps. We'll be right back. All right. So I love my pick there, 3 overall. And now with the snake, are you kidding me? I get Green Bay at Indianapolis. What a draft for the old Zeuser in the late games in the afternoon. Nice matchup here. You have the Packers who, listen, they're having a nice season. I like the Packers. Do I totally, fully trust the Packers? No, I'm not there. I don't think they're a team that has shown us that they are at the level of the truly elite teams. But when you look at their record and how the season overall has gone, you could say they have been. So I'm kind of still learning to trust Green Bay. And I like this matchup as a measuring stick game for them because they go to Indianapolis, so they go on the road and they face a Colts team that should, you would think, be able to give them some trouble because they play very good defense, the Colts, so they could have the opportunity to potentially disrupt Aaron Rodgers, who's been at an all-pro level this year. And then on offense, against a Green Bay defense that I don't think anybody trusts, Phillip Rivers and Nyheim Hines, who I really liked what we saw on Thursday night. Maybe they're figuring out that backfield, which we know is a big issue for the Colts. They haven't been able to get that backfield going since Marlon Mack's Achilles tear, and Jonathan Taylor has struggled. But maybe Nyheim Hines, who had 115 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Titans, is a solution back there. So I really like this as a close game, and I think it could go either way.
I'm with you on Hines. I know Greg was calling to see more of him a week ago, and you got it. And Bob Kravitz, longtime beat writer for the Colts, compared him to Eric Metcalf of old, and I see a little bit of that. What I liked about the Colts last week in the win over the Titans was, we also mentioned the special team stuff. It helps to have the Titans with a third-string punter, just to throw that in there. But at the same time, Rivers, they went a little up-tempo. I thought that Rivers probably played his best game of the season. And they need that. They need the offense to complement what I think is the most enjoyable defense to watch in the league. I think Darius Leonard is the anchor, obviously, the heart of that defense. They're
Another
as
shot
fast
at the
as
Rams.
anyone in. Excuse me?
Another shot at the Rams. Just noting it.
It is not a shot at the Rams.
Marking
The Rams
it down.
are in the mix, but the Colts, that's their identity, and they at least have an identity on that side of the ball. So it's a great challenge for Aaron Rodgers, who, they squeaked one out against the Jaguars last week. I'd like to see a little more firepower from Green Bay. They don't seem to be the team they were a couple months ago.
Matt LaFleur keeps talking about that they don't have energy, like on the side. He really doesn't stop talking about it, like that we need more juice. He doesn't know why they're not excited. Like, I don't know if that's an excuse after the fact or if this team really is flat. I think this game sets up well because they're on turf. And to me, even though they're, from Green Bay, they would be a great indoor team. Devontae Adams cutting on turf. Aaron Jones, who's been a little quiet, relatively coming off the injury, his speed showing up on turf, and their speed could definitely give the Colts defense problems. It's a great matchup. I have a very hard time picking this game. I'm curious where you guys would go. I went with the Colts, but I don't feel good about it.
I'd go Colts. I think Colts
I think the Packers, I would pick the Packers, but I don't do it with a lot of confidence. It was good to see Marquez Valdez-Scantling break out there with going 4 for 147, and he had the long touchdown. They just need more consistency from him. And Alan Lazard, if he can get back, he's missed time with a core injury. I know you kind of forget about it because it was right as he was taking off that he went down with the injury, but they seem like they had really found something there. So there's a potential here that with Aaron Jones, and I know he's been kind of in a bit of a committee, surprisingly, Aaron Jones the last couple of weeks. But as he gets further away from his injury, Lazard back, MVS flashing, Devontae Adams being Devontae Adams, that the Packers will go up a level on offense and perhaps as soon as Sunday. So that's why I picked the Packers, but I do think it's a close game. I'm looking forward to this one. It's a good one.
We should mention that Jair Alexander, who is, I would say, the best cornerback in the league this year, has been out for a few weeks. They hope to get him back this week. Maybe Kevin King, too, who's another starting corner. So that's a big deal for them, in addition to Lazard. But I want to see a little more before we move on, just out of this Packers pass rush. Remember Zadarius Smith? I had him in the top 5 defensive players of the year last year. He hasn't been the same. Kenny Clark hasn't quite been the same. He got that big extension, and Preston Smith hasn't been the same. So if Phillip Rivers is protected, I kind of like the Colts in most games where you can give Phillip Rivers some time. And so far, the Packers defense hasn't had nearly as much juice up front as they did a year ago.
Well, I mean, I know for sure that Mike Pettin is watching this. He watches every episode and listens to every podcast
Your old buddy.
that we do. I mean, that's
Believe land.
You want some energy on that sideline. Flip the switch on the pass rush there.
All right, I'm looking.
Didn't you write a big feature about Pettin once? Didn't you live in his apartment that was like next to the facility? The two of you just hanging out or something.
There's been a long string of Browns coaches that have lived in those apartments, but he also dug in on his thoughts on the Warren Commission and other things. If you'd, that's another article that you could find on NFL.com if you so wish to search for it.
There you go, Mark. See, plugging isn't a bad thing. You're proud of the work
An article
you do.
from 4
you
years
to get
ago.
it out there. And while we're here, the Power Rankings show with Matt Money Smith every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on NFL Network. The Packers 7-2 entering this game. The Saints 7-2. The Saints now start Jameis Winston on purpose. So the Packers with a somewhat soft schedule have a chance here to go get that number 1 seed if they can close out this regular season strong. All right, up next in the draft. I'm just on fire after that 3-4 slotting by the old Zeuser. Mark, you're up.
Well, I mean, there aren't, I'm going to go Dallas at Minnesota. I need, there's not that many 4:00 games. You got to schedule your day out. But there's something to like about this. I talk about teams that change our perception of who they are. The what?
This guy hates his draft class.
Yeah, exactly. You're like the guy in the press conference afterwards. It's just how the board fell to us. Like we would have drafted him higher, but exactly you don't believe it at all. Yeah, it's
exactly what happened. I mean, there's stuff behind the curtain here that we have to deal with that the viewer doesn't need to worry about. Dallas, Minnesota. All right, Minnesota at least is this. I think has grown into one of the tougher teams, and their defense over the last couple of weeks, they have given up 22 points, 20 points. 13. They were 10th in DVOA. This defense has turned it around. There's a lot of new faces. Mike Zimmer had a lot to deal with a couple months ago. This is turning into one of Mike Zimmer's better coaching performances. On the flip side, Dallas's defense, there's a lot of bubbling up this week because you're dealing with Dalvin Cook. Is it going to be a repeat of when the Browns came in and ran the ball for 307 yards? And it was DeMarcus Lawrence who said, absolutely not. We're not that defense anymore. We're not going to have a repeat of that game. And I don't think they are that defense. Greg, I know that you've talked a little bit about the uptick for the Cowboys on that side of the ball. I don't believe in this team, but I think we might get to a point where maybe Mike McCarthy isn't wishing that he had just simply vanished to the Caribbean eating shrimp and drinking like cold beers versus actually doing this job. They've got a chance to close it out strong here.
Awesome. That sounds incredible.
That sounds fun.
It does sound fun. I'd much rather be doing that, but
let's all do that. Yeah, I'm a little surprised the Cowboys defense didn't get more love for how they played against Pittsburgh. Maybe it's because they ended up losing that game and then they go on a bye. But DeMarcus Lawrence is one of the streakiest and best defensive players of the last 5 years. When he gets on a roll, he dominates, and he has been on that roll the last 3 weeks. Then Neville Gallimore, who we didn't hear from early in the season, he's had 2 great weeks in a row. You get Leighton Vander Esch back. He's playing much better. He's kind of looking like the Leighton Vander Esch of old. And Randy Gregory made a big difference. So I know it's only a 2-week sample size, but they played good defense 2 straight weeks. So I at least give them some hope that maybe they're turning it around. There are players on this Cowboys front that can cause some damage and maybe keep this game close. I think they're going to be just good enough to lose close games instead of lose blowouts, basically.
Or win the NFC East at 4-12. I mean, one of those two things will happen.
It's certainly possible. I didn't give up the ghost with the Vikings, the team of Zeus TL. And here's the thing. I don't know if I'm ready to give up the ghost with the Dallas Cowboys either. And it's maybe rooted in some weird sense of faith in Andy Dalton and this idea that he could still pilot this offense and get them back to respectability on that side of the ball with all the playmakers he has. And I have much less confidence with this take than I did when he first entered the lineup. But I still think unless he completely lost his skill set, or unless Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore are just bad at their jobs and have no idea how to get him comfortable. They've had weeks now because of this COVID-19 and the concussion to look at the tape. Who knows? Look at the old Dalton tape in Cincinnati. What did he do well? What is he comfortable with? Well, here are some of the best playmakers in football. Let's find a way to start scoring 26 or 27 points a game. I'm not ruling it out. And if they can do that, and if they start that this week, and I don't think it's impossible to ask to do it against Minnesota's defense, all of a sudden the NFC East once again mutates into something still disturbing, but even more interesting. So I was almost was completely had like 17 red stripes deep and locked up the Cowboys just on a lark, but I didn't do it. But that's how I feel. I think they're going to put up points and be better on offense with Dalton back.
I mean, this is the team of Zeus TL. You can't pick against these Vikings right now. They're a team of destiny, and they've got Cordarrelle Patterson, who to me is like an all-decade. There's a pretty strong statistical argument. He's the best kickoff returner of all time. How about that, Cordarrelle Patterson?
I want to hear more about these 17 red stripes and where your mind went on that journey, Dan, but that could be for a later conversation.
What does Cordell Patterson have to do with it?
I don't know. I just had a total brain fart and imagined that
Justin
he was on
Jefferson,
the Vikings
though,
once again.
is
Remember that?
Well,
Remember you know that? He was on the Vikings. That was fun.
Yeah, that was an awesome run back. Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb was the guy that was the superstar rookie wide receiver before Dak went down. I like that both these guys are playing in this game. There's just this is Mark, don't be so hard on your draft class. This is a pretty decent late round pick.
Well, I had CeeDee Lamb on my fantasy team. Literally nobody cares about this, but I mean, the guy has gone to sleep. I'd like to see him, reawaken and be productive. I think it looks as good as anyone else in the rookie draft class, but the numbers are insane.
He's no Jefferson.
Come on, Cowboys, get off the mat. It's still there for the taking, but I'm rooting for my Vikings. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Updated lock of the week standings. Everybody got a W except for poor Wes, who took the Bills. Oh, that's a bad beat. And look at Ricky Hollywood. She's riding a 2-game winning streak. I don't even think she cheated this week. Bring her in now to the great Around the NFL podcast producer, Erica Tamposi. Congratulations on that big dub. And you did it the right way without cheating.
Thank you. I'm climbing back, and I don't appreciate the slander, but I did not cheat. But climbing back in there.
All right, and everyone make sure to watch Erica Tamposi on The Weakest Link on Monday. All right, let's get into it. It is time to go through the speed round of the rest of the games. Let's hit it, starting with the Miami Dolphins red hot, traveling up to Mile High to take on the Broncos. What are you thinking, Sizzler?
Well, I mean, you want to talk about a team that I believe in going much farther than we thought at the beginning of this season. Brian Flores is my coach of the year right now. The Miami Dolphins defense is completely revamped and overhauled from last season. They make life nightmares for quarterbacks. They're going to do so this week for Drew Lock, and I feel so good that I'm going to lock it up.
Oh, he loves his fish. He's eating fish every week. Up next, the Patriots at Houston Texans. New England coming off a big win there on Monday night, Ricky, and you are a Pats homer. What are you thinking on this one?
We've got the third in the AFC East versus the third in the AFC South, so you know it's going to be a good game, you guys. The Patriots have the 19th total offense versus the 29th total defense with the Texans. And, you know, J.C. Jackson, 5 interceptions in the last 5 games. He's got 6 total. I mean, I think the Patriots squeaked this one out, and that's why I'm locking them up. Let's go.
See, that's why you're 3-7. If you think a team's going to squeak one out, you don't lock them up. It's fine, though.
They're great.
Good luck to you.
They're great.
Greg, Steelers at Jacksonville. Slaughter.
Probably yes. Jake Luton. You tried to get Luton's sanity off and going, Dan. He's no Gardner Minshew. The Jaguars' defense is actually playing a little better since their bye week, but I don't think it really matters this week.
All right. The Cincinnati Bengals travel to the nation's capital or near it to face the football team of Washington. Ricky.
We've got the first overall pick versus the second overall pick. They both were teammates at Ohio State. Burrow leads all rookies in pass yards this year. Chase Young leads all rookies in sacks, okay? Joe Burrow's been sacked 32 times, the second most in the NFL. This game is saucier than we think. I think it's going to be really fun.
I love the data that Ricky's bringing to the speed round lately. Up next, the Detroit Lions at Carolina Panthers. Mark, before you got on the Dolphins trade, it was all about the Panthers. You still in on the Matt Rule buddies?
I am long term. I think they have an explosive offense, and we'll see on defense. But how about close out a game against a Lions team that never is really sure it wants to win? I think this could be the week.
Finally, the New York Jets travel to Hollywood Park to face the Los Angeles Chargers. And, just when I got a little bit excited that we can get a sample size of Sam Darnold for these last 7 games, that shoulder is not healthy. He is out. It's more Joe Flacco. And, the haircut on Justin Herbert. I'm nervous about it. I hope the mojo wasn't in the locks. This should be an easy Chargers win to keep them somewhat alive in the AFC. All right, make sure you check out the Around the NFL podcast on Sunday night, our flagship show, where we recap every game we just previewed. Enjoy your football, everybody.
Yep.